Okay. All right, don't look at me crazy. I am wearing the same thing that I was wearing at the end of the other video. I'm assuming nobody's watched that yet. This is recorded the same morning. I wanted to hop on and just give a little bit of context to a couple of the things. I was like watching this intro video back and realizing that, I'm a little bit emotional in it. I don't know how to feel about that necessarily. Like, I'm like, dang, I'm gonna get a little bit vulnerable, and I guess that's just gonna have to be okay. I think I think that one of the important things about being able to do this is to be able to find my, or like make the most of like my preferred medium of communication, which is through conversation. I know it's not necessarily helpful to be just talking by myself about a bunch of things, but I feel like there are a lot it's a lot more helpful for me to be able to um, just explore things like in in this like vague things that are sort of like in like the cloud of thought, right, and like being able to like pull them down like one at a time and be like, okay, what's in here. um I definitely, I know if anybody goes and like here, the nice thing about this is that no, right now I'm in a place where like nobody's watching, and I feel like that's a great place to be. Like, I don't even want to say hopefully. I don't think that's good. Like, let me get better at using my um my like manifestation language, right? That's not going to be the case forever. Right now, I'm really like experimenting on myself, trying to make notes, trying to, you know what I mean? Like the first things that I noticed about that video were um, the sound like is inconsistent because I recorded at a different volume. I'm still getting used to like, there's volume settings on the camera, there's volume settings on the microphone receiver. The receiver's going into the camera. Uh, you know, the receiver, okay, the transmitter has a volume, the receiver has a volume, the camera has a volume. I haven't like normalized all these things to be like, you know, in a place where all of this is like super clearly discernible. I don't even know how much of what I was saying last night. It's like I can hear it if I turn my volume all the way up on the TV, but I don't know. Other people might just not be able to hear it. Yeah, one of the first things that comes to mind is um, figuring out how to compartmentalize all the different things that I do, in a way that makes sense. Um, and at least still having them still all under the same umbrella. Like right now, like being under the umbrella of a YouTube channel, I think is the most helpful because it's just the one where there's the most different. It feels like the one where the most can go in. And then if there's like different, because I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine who's like in need of some like video production services, because he's trying to get his sort of like content creation um, schedule and routine put together. And one of the things that I was telling him was that, well, the way, like, I literally, you know what I mean, last night started doing this for myself. So the way I'm trying to look at it is by um, doing everything specifically for YouTube, right? Like use it. YouTube is like the central hub of content, and then chopping everything else into smaller condensed versions or like different, you know what I mean, just like these slightly differently edited things for all the other platforms out there. um And I'm gonna try that for a while and see how it goes, because I think I'm still gonna have to go through each video and chop like advertisement essentially for like Instagram, for a TikTok page, for whatever. So um, that's kind of gonna be the process here. I don't really know. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to set the timer on my phone so that I can watch the time on the video. Um, let's see. I've been thinking I should hold the mic more like Barack Obama when he would do. It's really effective, it seems like. You're like pointing a pen at somebody. Um, Stopwatch. One sec. Um, yeah. One of the things that I've realized that I struggled with in the past, which I don't know if anybody else deals with this issue, but there's I've noticed that I have the pattern of like I'm I'm better at doing things in a context of like where I'm not supposed to be doing them, which is like a very weird phenomenon. Like I'm better at doing things, certain kinds of things, until like when nobody's watching and there's nobody expecting me to do it. So like I think the idea is like I have a bad relationship with pressure, maybe. Um, Because there's other times I think where in like like when it comes to like music, like I have a good relationship with pressure. Like pressure really can affect my ability to be like musically effective. But I think there's other things like communication, consistency, like things that are outside of like a specific medium, that really are challenged by like the expectation that I'm gonna do something and I'm gonna do something in a certain way. And I really, 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 really hate that shit. To be honest. And I'm gonna try and curse as little as possible. Like I'm working on being able to curse less, ideally not at all, because I'm trying to lead a more, you know, godly life. It's weird to think that all I don't even know what I'm trying to say right now, actually. I do know that when it's come to like music, that I've always I've really steered away from putting myself out there a lot, um, which is really unfortunate because I love music and a lot of people actually really like the music that I make. Um, Not necessarily in like a fan context, but even just like people that know me, people that like hear my stuff, my friends, just people that know me essentially, right? Like hear my music and then they frequently ask me questions like, "Well, how are you not famous? How are you that?" And it's like the truth is like I just been like I think just been scared of putting myself out there um, in a consistent way. I've been afraid of getting on stage and singing the songs that I've written, and I haven't been disciplined in terms of, um, you know, learning how to do that, and putting myself out there in that regard, which is really unfortunate. It's actually not unfortunate. Unfortunate is a very passive way of putting it. It's just bad. Like it's just a failure of my own. I think it's just a failure on my part. Um, Not I think it is. It's 1,000% a failure on my part. Um, because I don't really have an excuse for not sharing my gifts with the world. Like God didn't give me my gifts to just like have them sit on my laptop, you know? And I think coming to terms with that is it's hard because it's hard to look at like it's hard to look at like a lot of my 20s, like I mentioned in the last video. Like I'm gonna be 30 in February. But it's hard to look at the last 10 years of my life, right, and not feel regret because of that. And I think that moving forward, that it really has to be um, a lot of effort poured into actually, and like as weird as it might sound, like overcompensating for that, and maybe not in like not overcompensating in an egotistical way, but overcompensating in a practical way of like, oh, like there's actually like 10, yeah, there's about roughly like 10 years worth of music that hasn't been explored in like the way of like videos for these songs haven't been made, promotion shows, like all that stuff hasn't been done. Like I've gone through the experience of living a life that inspired the music, but I haven't gone through the process of like documenting any of really what went into making those songs, and it's impossible really to go back in time, right, to document some of the things that happened to me that inspired a lot of the music that I made, you know? And there are some things that are like these sort of just like songs that are like fun ideas. Like the most recent song I put out is called 404, which is like just a. She said, are you running game or are you for real? Be honest, I know the deal. Can I take us come and make go? Me and these boys are not the same. I know how you feel. Intentions they can't conceal. At least I know I'm trouble and I know you're so much more than just a. What, I don't know, it just like came to me. Um, but there are other songs, like I have a project called Before I Knew It, that was inspired by a lot of, just a lot of really, really intense, intense experiences. You know what I mean? Like I lost a lot of my family. I lost a lot of friends. I went through like deep periods of like loneliness, depression, anxiety, hopelessness, and essentially if you listen to that music, then it's like a lot of that stuff really sounds more like, well, not, it's effectively is a suicide note, and some of those emotions are me like vicariously expressing things through people that I love and care about, or you know what I mean, or people that couldn't express themselves anymore because they weren't here. Um, and I don't know, I don't. I'm getting more into the place now where it's like I'm watching this movie right now, Yes Man, with Jim Carrey, which is interesting because I really feel like I'm him. I've been him at the beginning of that movie for a really long time, right? Of just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go there. I don't want to talk to these people. I don't want to see these people. I don't want them to see me. Like, and then like kind of watching this and like seeing myself like this and like as things just always land harder, I feel like as I get older, right? But like really like wrapping up my 20s and being like, yo, like, wouldn't you want this next chapter to be filled with as much just like adventure and check time, as much adventure and possibility, um, or um, yeah, and just like growth as possible. Like that's really like what I feel like has to be um, the next chapter for me, And so, I even have friends who, because I put one of my old songs from like 2017, on like the background of like an Instagram post that I made. And this girl who I've known, like I helped produce one of her podcasts, like just like brought my camera and the mics, that I'm using right now, right, to help her film one of her podcasts. Um, but she hears the song, she goes like, "Can I please help you direct a video for this song?" I'm like, I'm not trying to make videos for songs that are 7 years old. But then I have to be reminded that it's like, to me, it's 7 years old, but people are still touched by by music that they haven't heard before, or music that they're familiar with. But like in this case, music that people haven't heard yet is new to them. You know what I mean? Whether it's new to me or not, it's like, it doesn't really matter. And it's not about me in the sense, it's just not about me, you know what I mean? And I've even had to counsel, like, you guys are in my living room right now. Like, this place has been, this is like, people come here to record music, edit videos, have essentially what turn into like therapy and counseling sessions, like with me. You know what I mean? We talk about a lot of different things, life, um, politics, like, you know what I mean? We talk about a lot of stuff in here. And it's like, I'm hoping to be able to open that up to more people, however it's possible, or I guess not however it's possible, but however it's productive. Um, and this is going to be an experiment in trying to figure that out. But I was having a conversation with an artist who I work with, Karali.
Said I got a bag, bitch, ayy, bought it like athletes. You had the sauce before down, nigga, that's past tense, ayy. Shorty a style, yeah, ayy. She on her cash shit. I got like 5 rings down, feeling like magic, ayy.
Payne, who I'll throw a link to some of his music in here too. But we were having a conversation about, he's really talented. He's been rapping a long time. And sorry, Karali, if you see this, I don't mean to be putting your business out there, but we were like, one of the things that he was saying was like, man, like he wanted to do more shows, and he wanted to like, but um, he wanted to get booked for a headlining gig. I'm like, bro, like this isn't this isn't about you. You know what I mean? Um, and I in front and mind you, like I don't ever say, I really am at a point in my life where like I don't say anything to anybody that isn't based in my personal experience or that I can't relate to, right? So even me being somebody who's also really talented, and has been making music for a long time, when I realized that I've personally robbed like the world. Like Karali was the person that told me that I he only had to listen to one song like a couple months ago. Like we've known each other for a long time, but he hasn't been tuned in with me as an artist. But he was like, "You're kind of robbing the world." And we got into a moment too where I had to tell him the same thing. I'm like, "Yeah, you remember how you told me that I was robbing the world by not giving my people who would be my fans as many opportunities as possible to enjoy being my fans, or enjoy participating in the music, or enjoy participating in the creative experience and process." Um, it was like really, it's very interesting. But I think one of the things that I said, it was like, yeah, like in that sense, as an artist, it's not really about you. You know what I mean? Like your your translation, your ability, your gift is about your experience, like your ability to translate your experiences into something that other people can relate to. Like that process is kind of about you. It involves you. It's like it's dependent on you, but it's not necessarily. It's not about just making you feel good about yourself. Like, and having realized that too, I'm like, I need to. I definitely need to take more of an initiative to start putting some of these ideas together. Like there's a lot of material, like like I look at like the music as kind of like the raw material, because that's just the stuff that kind of, like in the context of like a garden, right? Um, or maybe just like a field. It's the stuff that kind of just has grown naturally, right? And like I've cultivated some of these things, but like I haven't packed them up and shipped them, right? So the farm is essentially non-operational at this point. The idea is to now like start getting the farm into a operational place. So that's, you know what I mean? Just being able to like be organized, being able to make um, experiences around some of the music that's already out, start pushing out more of the music um, that's still in the vault. You know, one of the things that I definitely I realize there's like this reel going around. I'm gonna reset the video counter real quick. But there's one of these there's a reel going around of I think it's DJ Jazzy Jeff talking about the goal is to die empty. And that's so real.
That's so real. That's so real.
Because it's like I keep thinking about all this stuff too, right? Where it's like even been like praying, like, you know what I mean? Like, God, like, please don't let me. Oh wait, let me reset this. Oops. Reset. Start. Don't let me die being somebody who just had all these ideas that never got the attention or like that. You know what I mean? Like got acted on. And I feel that's like that is in so many ways like how I feel about even like a lot of my 20s. Like, dang, like I um I had another prayer because I keep a prayer journal, right? I had a prayer. I was just like feeling I'm like, you know, God, like I really feel like I have forgotten. I feel like I've forgotten. Hold on, I hear the camera focusing. Why is it focusing so hard? I'm gonna just hope that it's working. Okay, if it's all blurry and whatever, it is what it is. Then maybe we'll just make an audio version. But I was like, you know, I feel like after some things happened in my mid 20s, like just some things that didn't go my way that just really discouraged me, and I can get into the some of that stuff in like a later um in a later time at a later, you know, whatever. Um, but really feeling like I had lost my ability to come up with an idea or like dream something, you know what I mean? Go after it, pursue it, and make it happen. Like, I feel like the feeling of like losing that has actually been like probably one of the most painful experiences or painful like states of being in my life because I think it's two parts, right? Is that taking for granted what I can do, which is like, you know, even just like the gift of music, being able to just hear stuff, dream stuff up in my head and put it down into like, you know, some chords and a beat and a song or whatever on a laptop. Taking that for granted is not healthy um, on one part, right? Stopping there is also maybe not enough, right? And not enough in like an egotistical way, but like that's in some ways like that's kind of like the easiest part. You know, I mean, there's probably a lot of people who might not agree where they feel like putting a well put together record is like a ton of work. You know what I mean? For me, it's really not that much work. And I think we're all called um, to do work in the ways that don't necessarily feel like the easiest, most comfortable thing. And my thing that's really like called out to me as the work that I would avoid was like pushing it. You know what I mean? Standing on it, like being on, getting like putting the videos together, getting on camera, doing the shows, getting on like all of that stuff. You know, realistically is the majority of the work in music. So it's like I can't necessarily say that I um I worked very hard. I did a ton of work to get as good as I did, but it was easy because I love doing it. You know what I mean? And I really neglected, and to this day, I'm dealing with, the feelings of like, okay, I can't neglect this anymore. Like, this has to start opening up. I have to start opening up. I have to start putting myself out there in ways that are, even this is like one step, like this is kind of uncomfortable for me compared to like sitting on, like getting on stage and singing. Like, this is a breeze, you know what I mean? So these things can't be weighed or valued equally. Like, I have to keep in mind that this is putting myself out there, like this is like a little bit uncomfortable just because like um I've shied away from it for so long, but like I'm good at talking to people, um, and I'm good at communicating. So I'm kind of treating it like it's like that. It's just more now that it's available for the public to like look and see and listen to what I'm saying. But compared to like getting on stage and singing a song that I wrote with like no auto tune on it, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I'm like, and so, one thing at a time, right? Like, I've put a band together, which has been great. I've just been getting used to, we do these community jam sessions every Thursday night in Chicago, and being able to just like, even just being able to play with a band in front of people, I think has been a great exercise. Because even now I'm getting to the place where it's like, we've been doing that for a few months. I finally started like picking the mic up to like sing, you know what I mean? A little bit here and there. And unfortunately, I don't know if I'll ever be like an amazing singer for real. Um, but I feel like I also shouldn't say that. You know what? Let me take that back. I think, I had my first voice lesson on Saturday, and I like realized like naturally, like I'm naturally a good, like I'm a good musician. You know what I mean? Maybe I might be a great musician. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm great. Like, I'm a great piano player compared to somebody who's a great piano player. Or I'm a great singer compared to somebody who's like a trained from childhood like singer, right? But like my ability to like produce and write records, and then the combination of that, of like having like a pretty, like, I think, unique voice, um, could mean a lot. Um, could mean that I'm maybe not giving myself the credit for what I'm capable of, and I don't want to keep doing that. So all that to say, like, I'm working on being able to like bring these things together. It just really requires me to like grow a fucking pair of balls. Pardon me for like that being the most like vulgar thing that I've said this entire time. It's out of nowhere a little bit, but that's kind of just is what it is. Like, it's really just like, bro, like, can you just stop talking about it and just go actually get on stage and sing? So it's like I'm working on, you know what I mean? Like, one day at a time, kind of like tackling that, because I feel like I got a lot of anxiety and stuff that's like wrapped up in that. That I really just have to like, confront as in as many ways as I possibly can. So here we are. And I don't know what that means. Like, I know, like, it's weird because one of the things that happens too is like people say things about like, oh, uh, you shouldn't feel weird because you're getting older. I'm like, but I do, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't necessarily need anybody to like, I don't want anybody to, I hate when people try to encourage me, because I'm always like, I really wish I didn't need this as badly as I do. You know what I mean? Like, that's like the worst thing. I really wish I didn't need to hear. I wish I didn't wasn't so desperate for like encouragement and kind words as I really am on the inside. Like, if I could really, but it is what it is. And um I I just have to be careful, because one of the things that's come up too recently is like, I feel like I've made a lot of changes to my life, over the last couple of years. And I don't pursue the things that I care about and love the same way that I used to, right? Because even um, when I was pursuing music and artistry in a more full-time capacity, and more in like the conventional capacity too of like, um, you know, it was like an example of like I dropped a project in 2019. I had a big release party for it. Um, and the people and it just like it ended really badly. Like the project didn't go very far. People liked the music, but people didn't like me. You know what I mean? And that's something that is now that's deep. Can we talk about that for a second? Drake, if you're watching this, trust me, at least you have $500 million because you know, it could be worse. Could be a lot worse for you, my boy. Like, try, yeah, like I was in that position where it was like people liked my music, but people really didn't like who I was as a person. And I think I felt the same. Like I felt the same way about myself, so I understand totally. I'm like, I really don't like who I am as a person, but I'm really making the fuck out of these songs. Pardon my language again. And that's like this is what it is, man. So when I look at it now, I'm like, well, I don't, um, I don't, I'm not pursuing it. I'm not pursuing. Okay, so here's the thing. I used to appreciate. Um, this is just something that I've been talking to people about, right? It's like I used to really appreciate. Um, I used to really appreciate when people would praise my talent, because there were so few examples of when anybody would praise my character that I knew that I could like I think essentially like distinguish between the two, right? I just assumed that my character was going to be tied up with my talent. Like people respected my talent, respected my work and like respect, you know what I mean? That then that would mean that I was a good person. Or not even a good, just an acceptable person, period, right? Um Obviously as I've gotten older, I've started to see I'm like that's clearly not the case, right? Because now now I'm in a place where it's like I'm a part of a community, right? And I'm a part of a few different things, and people will say things to me about me and how I am as a person that are like jarring to me because they're kind things to say. And I'm like, I, I don't look at myself as somebody really who's like worth being complimented or like, you know what I mean? Things like that, especially from like a character level, right? Because I always used to pursue, praise of a different category entirely. But um, now I'm not pursuing music, I think, for validation, right? I'm pursuing it, I guess, for the purpose of like, I don't want to die as a person that didn't make the most of the gift that I was given. You know what I mean? And that's really important to me right now. And I don't, and I'm, it's hard to even talk about it without starting to get mad at myself for some of the mistakes that I made in my 20s. Um, but let me check this 13. Um, but it is what it is. And hopefully I can like channel this sort of like, this like frustration into being able to, um, into yeah, being able to make the most of um, what I've been given. You know what I mean? I'm like, there's not a lot of people that are like me. I feel like. And I'm starting to recognize that, because one of the weird things about like crashing out, and it's like I know people talk about crashing out of like everything, but like when you have a real crash out moment, and I crashed out, right? Like I really crashed. Like I I was living in LA, and I like when I tell you that I like crashed out, moved back to Chicago, lived on my mom's couch for like 6 months. You know what I mean? Maybe longer, maybe about 7 months, 7, 8 months. Um, drugs, drinking, girl, like you know what I mean? Just and like that when people talk about like they crash out because they got frustrated by something somebody said, like I crashed out, like I started destroying my life because of the like anger. You know what I mean? Some of the things that were like inside me and my spirit. I'm gonna reset this thing. I'm gonna have to put the charger on the camera in a second. But yeah, having gone from a place of, let me see if I can do this. I know all these clicky clacky sounds are somebody's ASMR paradise. Is it getting brighter in here? Probably. Adjust that a little bit. Um, uh, did I actually start recording it again? I did, right? Yeah, I did. Um, where was I? But yeah, when I got back from LA, um, things just that was kind of like that was the start of the process of realizing I'm like, oh, like maybe like pursuing having this like vision of me for me isn't really like it's not really working out the way that any I think by any meaning, you know what I mean? You could be like, oh yeah, this is great, this is a good idea. This is a great life, you know what I mean? Like I think one of the unfortunate things about music, maybe it's the industry, maybe it's the culture. I would say that it's probably, and like, let's not run away with this because I'm definitely not like an anti, like, I don't really consider myself to be like an anti-capitalist, kind of like anything like that. But I think one of the unfortunate things about our culture is that there are a lot of people that, myself included, it, look at their work as something that should override all of the parts of their life that are um, also meaningful. Um, and how am I going to say this? There are a lot of people, content creators, influencers, inspirational speakers, people who will characterize work as like you if you're essentially becoming estranged from your family, sacrificing relationships, sacrificing your mental health, physical health, all these different things, then you're moving in the right direction. And there has to be some like there has to be a line in there somewhere. And like I understand that there's a there is an element. So here's the thing: there is an element of truth in that, I believe, right? Where it's like you are going, like everything is going to require a sacrifice. I think Jordan Peterson's made a great point where he's like, um, you know, sacrifice is kind of made passively anyway because time passes. So the options of which you have in terms of who and what you can be are going to naturally be given up anyway. So you might as well make the sacrifice intentionally of like, okay, well, I'm going to say no to this, I'm going to say no to this, and I'm just going to do this. Um, that being said, we kind of show up at this idea um, of ministry, which is something that I learned once I started going back to church, which is the idea of, I guess I would boil it down to like the idea of you know, Christians would say that ministry is about preaching the word, spreading the gospel. Um, I look at ministry as um, refining the example that you are called to set for people. And I know that it might be controversial. Somebody from my church sees this and be like, I feel like you're not, whatever. All right, whatever. I don't care. Um, I think that that's what it is. And so one of the things in the music industry is that the a lot of the ministry is for destruction. And that's, I want to be very like particular with my words, right? Um, a lot of the example that is being set for young artists or upcoming artists or just any artist, for anybody who wants to be successful in music, is that you have to prioritize um, like power, money, sex, drugs, um, chaos. Like, you know what I mean? That you have to prioritize a lot of these things in order to be successful and be accepted as an artist. And part of that is true. You know what I mean? Like in a lot of ways, like these things are the things that sell in music. And like at the same time, um, a lot of our artists who we look up to are not, they don't set a great example of like going against that grain. I think even like one of the things that I know is like, Kendrick, the whole thing with Kendrick and Drake is like, you know, they're they're two people with like an entirely different ministry in music, right? Because I used to try and live my life like more like I wanted to be more like Drake. You know what I mean? I didn't really look at Kendrick as somebody that I think was like I never contextualized things and I never articulated them as what they are, which is that like these people are passively or intentionally setting examples for like how you can succeed in music. I just always looked at like this like big superstar, like cultural, you know what I mean? All these things been like, um, but unfortunately, like you only see an image, right? You only, and time will tell you what's underneath it. And that's not to say like make any claims or assumptions about um, who any of these people are in real life, right? Um, but you can see everybody individually can see who somebody is once enough time has passed. And I think that that's like one of the most important lessons that I've learned now is like, well, I want to prioritize that, right? And being somebody um, who sets a good example um, and does great work, even if it's not in music, even if it's not just in music, right? Because I'm always going to be a musician. None of my music is really ever taken off for real. I think one of my songs, the most one of them has, it's like the first one I ever uploaded, um, has like 150,000 plays on SoundCloud, and all of them since then have had like just declined into like essentially like nothing, right? Um, and I think I should really take that at like I don't know how to like take that in terms of like um is that like God telling me that like I really should just leave it alone and go do something else? Like maybe I should just do this. And like, yeah, maybe. Maybe. you know. But it's not like I never released anything. I never released anything in prayer, right? I never released anything with like the idea that like, if I damn. I'm really not great at this yet. How much time is left on this thing? Um I but yeah, I'll say I've never really done anything in prayer. I never really asked God to like make this into something, you know what I mean? I always just thought I could just do it like because I wanted to do it and because I'm good, you know. And unfortunately, I guess, um, it seems like the consensus around like the people in my life is that they're, you know, for me to have succeeded and it to have been without God, right? I probably would have actually wound up wasting more of my gifts and talents than I realize or that anybody could realize. Um, and that's not to say that it's like, oh, well, the next phase for me is to then like focus on like making like Christian music, right? I think the idea is just, well, if you feel like if you're watching this and you feel like you are struggling to make things happen on your own for the reasons that you want them to happen in the ways that you want them to happen, um, it can be very hard to like relinquish your idea of what your life means. Um, and that's what I just said is like very deep, right? And it might take a second to like get into it, but I think that that's one of the things that I had to do is like I had to really like give up this idea of what my life meant, right? Because the result, like, and everything can be measured by its results, right? In Christianity, we refer to it as the fruit, right? Um, but the fruit of the life that I was living before was a lot of pain, a lot of depression, a lot of um, drugs, alcohol, compulsive sexual behavior, um, deteriorating friendships, burnt bridges, um, distance from family, distance from friends, distance from community, distance from just love, right? And I've been reading this book called A Return to Love, which is essentially like the literary connection, like a book that provides a literary connection between God and what everybody understands as love, right? Because realistically, God is what everybody understands as love. Um, it's a great book. I'll put a link to it in the thing. Um, Now, things are different. Things are slower. Things are a little bit more boring. Things are a little bit more like, um, yeah, I would say that. I would say things are more slow and boring, which is great because in the version of my life that came before this was that anything like I didn't appreciate people, I didn't appreciate little things, I didn't appreciate, you know what I mean? I really did not appreciate life, and so like understanding that God really had to like put a pause on what I thought I was doing so that I could do something as simple as like waking up and smell the flower. You know what I mean? Like wake up and enjoy, you know what I mean? The fact that you are alive, the fact that I am the person that I am, the fact that I've been given the mind that I've been given, the fact that I've been given the gifts that I've been given, the fact that I've been given the opportunity to be a part of any kind of community or relationship with some of the other people that are just out here wandering around with like these beautiful hearts, minds, and spirits, is, I mean, I think that's a miracle. You know what I mean? Uh, so all that to say, like, I think what's going to come next is just doing all this stuff with a purpose, you know? And I don't know what that means, and I don't know what that is going to result in. And like, the best possible result is probably one that I couldn't imagine. You know what I mean? And so it's something outside of um, numbers. It's something that's outside of views. It's something that's outside of likes and subscribers. It's something outside of engagement and reach. It's something outside of money. It's something outside of ticket sales. It's something outside, like, you know what I mean? It's beyond all of these things, right? That's in my mind, starting to understand like the best possible result of doing this stuff with like the purpose of trying to line it up with, I feel like, what God's purpose is for me means, well, how are you doing things in a way that help people and inspire people to live their lives in a similar way? You know, and I feel like it's so unfortunate that we don't get that from artists. We get sold things. And it's like, I know it's not it's like, and it sucks too. It's like, yeah, like when you're like in your 20s, like you want, you know, the way, all the ways that you're sold to, all of the medication that you're sold, right? For the wounds you endured in your childhood and your teenage and your adolescence, right? A lot of the things that we're sold are not good, right? It's like it is a lot of like sex, drugs, rock and roll, right? It's kind of is what it is. Um, but I guess my point is like, well, rock and roll, and we just continue with the analogy, like rock and roll has its own benefits. You know what I mean? Now there's a lot of like the idea that sex and drugs come before the rock and roll is the mistake, right? Like there's like the music, the creativity, the pursuit of, you know what I mean, of making the most of your gifts is its own thing. And if you can resist the pull of the others, like, you know, there's no telling what'll happen. So I guess that's kind of like the direction that we're going to be trying to move, you know. And when I say we, I mean me, myself, and I, but I also mean like, you know, some of the people that have like kind of just like come out of the woodwork to like be a part of some of the ideas that I've had. Like I'm going to love to be able to show you guys some of the stuff that I've been working on with the band. I'm going to be able to show you guys some more of the stuff that I've been personally sitting on. I guess I'm going to try and release. I'm not going to do a project. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say what I will and won't do because I really don't know. I think I could do a project. I make so many different things that it's like it's not that cohesive. So I think maybe like one thing at a time over like the next few months. You know what I mean? Maybe like once every 3 weeks I'll drop something new. And just see. Just see. I saw somebody else on YouTube, Clever Ghost Chili. I watch a lot of his like camera videos. Chili, if you're watching this, shout out to you. You're really dope. You're really dope. I just want you to know, like, I'm totally gonna steal your idea for like filming those little looped cover arts. Like, I'm gonna try and do that. So I just want you to know this is me giving you credit. and I will also give you credit for the idea in like the ones that I actually do. But I wanted that to be, I want to be transparent. Okay. It is what it is. It's a great idea. And I really appreciate you. You know, let me actually give this guy his flowers real quick. Clever Ghost Chili, dude, like when a big part of my even taking the initiative to do some of this stuff, I don't know if you're ever going to see one of these. Um, but you know, because I've been subscribed to you for a minute, and I would just watch your like, I would watch like your technical videos on like lenses. But then one day I was just like, let me go click on this guy's links and see. And to find out that you are actually like a musician too, and you're like making a lot of the music yourself, and that you're doing all the like, that was so inspiring. You know what I mean? That I was like, oh yeah, like if you know what I mean, if this like somebody like I consider you to be somebody who's like similar to me, at least in terms of like creativity, right? Like I love making like videos, I love photography, I love making music, and I've just really been struggling with figuring out how to like put it all out there in ways that like make sense. And I feel like you've done such a good job. Like when I finally looked through like your whole portfolio and your website and everything, I'm like, whoa, like you know, this idea of like limiting yourself, or limiting myself. Let me be clear. I think some of the ideas of like how I would limit myself to like, oh well, I don't want to be a photographer if I'm supposed to be a musician. I don't want to be, you know what I mean? Like I can do like videos and like I just have to compartmentalize everything super strictly. And I think the idea like that's such a limiting belief. And I just wanted to give you your flowers. Like, if you do see this, that. Uh, yeah, a big part of me wanting to like step outside of my sort of like limiting beliefs was by seeing, you know what I mean, your just willingness to like put all of your stuff out there. So thank you so much for doing that. Um, you're really dope. Yeah. I don't know if I have anything else. This video is probably like 30, 40 minutes at this point, so I think I'm gonna cut it off. But this, yeah. See you later. Wow. That was that was pretty good, huh? Starting to get pretty good. I'm editing the everything that came before. I'm editing it right now. You can't see the screen, but uh anything to say? Yeah, really putting it all out there. I hope you're enjoying this second. The first one was a mess. I'm looking back at it. I'm like, that was bad. This is better. Uh, one step in the right direction at a time. One per day. Well, I don't know about one every day, but it's pretty easy. Probably take like a couple hours to edit. About an hour to film. Probably like 3 hours per video. If I could do that a couple times a week, I think I'd be doing just fine. Check link in the description for I guess all the stuff. I'll put like all the links to like all the music and like people who I mentioned in these videos. Don't you know? I tried to interrupt the last half because I started to get pretty real. I mean, I was goofing around obviously for like a lot of this. Uh, Fuck it. Oh, sorry. I'll bleep that. Boop. Um, yeah. Thanks again.